Yeah, so you want to make sure that the logic is implemented correctly, and the test suite should help with that. You might want to take the new version of the test code that I published. So I'm going to show you quickly what I did. So show the difference. So basically, what I did is for all this stuff, I can just do it this way. Basically, I added a lot of textual error messages that you see expected. I even found that one test is duplicated. It has a different name, but it does exactly the same thing. So I tried not to change anything. There's one thing that I changed here, but because the previous test wasn't actually correct, a pair is always a thing. But so yes, so it should return always 1 or 2 non-null values. So this one is updated. Everything else is just more text, textual explanation if there's an error. You might want to use this if you find that you struggle with the errors. And it is available through Brightspace. But in general, I'd say first do the to-dos, only then look at the tests, or try to pass all the tests. And also look at on Brightspace, I actually put out some guidance. So when we look at the, you should be able to see this now, isn't it? Yes. The announcement of the live stream. Let me put it. Do it this way. So when we look at the assessment part, oh no, so not there. The assessment part, here is the updated test code. You can download that and put it in if you want to. So it's not mandatory at all. It literally just changes the things. So when we look at the there, so there's a number of available documents there. Okay, now this is assignment help. I think in the assessment section. There is. No, I have to look at it where we put it. Yeah, the warning item, this one, the common errors. It also tells you exactly what drawline needs to do. So when you look at this, there's some common ways that people do it wrong. I underlined the bits that you want to do correctly. There's also the bit here about height. That should be Y. Was wrong in my example code, my video. The same for boxes. You want to return student box. Technically, it's not required, but it makes your life so much easier. Again, don't create new boxes. Just look them up when you do the adjacent boxes. Obviously, you need to have also the vertical ones. In drawline, you need to do all these things. If the line's already drawn, throw an exception. Update the IndexedDrawn property. And for each of the adjacent boxes, you need to determine whether all its lines have been drawn. If they are drawn, you update the owning player. You also record that the box, store the fact that the box was completed, because we then need to be able to give the current player another turn, as in not update who is the current player. If any box was completed, we might want to check that the game was won. You could do it cleverly and say, okay, if either is one box was null or both boxes were completed, then only can we have a winner. If there's one box that wasn't completed, we cannot have a winner. So you could try to do that cleverly. I'm not sure it's worth it, but we only need to check whether any box was completed anyway, so we can say, okay, only when there's a completed box can we have the game completed. If not, we update the player. This is the clever way of doing it, rather than using a big nasty if statement. The modulo operator will just wrap around the number. So it does the remainder after dividing with that particular divisor. So we have 2 players and the current player index is 2. That will end up the remainder being 0 if you divide it by 2. Or if you divide it by 2 with remainder. And then we call play the computer turns if no box was completed. If that happens to be a human player, what is the new current, then that will just not do anything. And we also need to remember to call the change event, or if the game was won, the game won event. There is the get scores function that you need for the game over thing. That get scores function does not meet the exact same format as the scores function, as the scores parameter to the game over thing. So what you can do is either fix get scores itself, or possibly the easiest way, use this bit of code that does the transformation. So it basically goes through every value with the index and the score value, looks up the player with that index, compares that to whatever the score is, and that gets put, and map index returns a list of all the values. And that's the scores, and that will meet exactly what was needed in the fire game over function. So create game. So one of the things that was there is many people would use something like this in the test create game. That will fail because you need to make your create game work with what was passed in. So just use this rather than having hard-coded values, because many things will fail if you don't use the hard-coded values. And it's not correct to do it either. So if you'd have this in your submission, then we would come in and change this and make sure and look at the tests if they actually pass the right value. It's not about you being able to bypass some failed tests. So look at this as well when you implement these, including what does drawline need to do.